The adenovirus, colloquially known as the common cold, presented by Carl Fulgari and Mark Andrew Laurenville. Morphology. The adenovirus has an icosahedral shape. It is comprised of proteins and non-enveloped DNA. It is the largest non-enveloped virus and ranges from about 90 to 100 nanometers in size. There are three groups of proteins in the adenovirus. There are the capsid proteins, here, here, and here, the major proteins, the proteins in here, and the minor proteins, which are all the brown ones. The capsid proteins are involved in viral structure and cellular penetration. There are three proteins in this group: the pennon bases, located at the vertices, the hexon bases, located at the edges. These are the green ones, by the way. And the protein fibers, which are found on the pennon bases. These fibers are responsible for getting the virus into the cell. They attach to the Coxsackie adenovirus receptor on the cell membrane. The cell is then tricked into allowing the virus to enter the cell through phagocytosis. The pennon bases stabilize the fibers onto the capsomere. The hexon bases are important structurally, but also play a role in attaching the virus to the microtubules of the cell, so the virus may head towards the nucleus. The brown proteins are the minor proteins. They're mostly hexon minor polypeptides and help with the stabilization and assembly of the virus. One of the minor proteins, outlined in black, is involved in destroying the endosome of the cell. Once the virus enters the cell, it is brought to the endosomes to be digested. The acid inside the endosomes dissociates the pennon bases, but frees this protein, which then destroys the endosomes and frees the virus to continue its journey to the nucleus. And those are the brown proteins outlined in black at the base of each pennon. The last group of proteins is the major protein group, these ones. They are involved in DNA replication, stabilization, packaging, and also act as histones, which wind up the viral DNA. And there are also proteases, which you can't really see, but yellow things at the bottom of each, or behind each pennon base. Epidemiology. The common cold is found all across the planet. There are about 18 billion cases of it annually. It isn't a deadly virus, but it is extremely virulent and spreads quickly and effectively. There's no immunity to the adenovirus due to its extremely high rate of mutation. The largest reservoirs of the virus are in small children. The virus can be transmitted through any particle. It can be airborne, bloodborne, and also waterborne. It can also be transmitted through fecal contact. It is extremely stable, and surfaces can act as vectors for the virus. For example, if you touch a surface that has been exposed to the adenovirus, you can then contract it if it comes into contact with cells, especially of the upper respiratory tract, which brings us to pathology. The adenovirus affects the upper respiratory tract. The virus It destroys the cells it infects by reproducing within them and destroying the native DNA. It can also be carcinogenic. Don't be alarmed. This is only when a certain protein in the virus binds to an expressor on the p53 oncogene to prevent apoptosis. This can mean that a cancerous cell can continue to grow and divide into tumor, but only if it survives the virus first. So if you have the cold, you won't get cancer. The virus incubates for 1 to 3 days and infects the upper respiratory tract for 3 to 14 days. Typical symptoms include coughing, sneezing, and having runny nose, a sore throat, fever, and malaise. Response and treatment. The immune system responds with the symptoms listed before. It also uses antibodies to fight off the viral pathogen. Also, infected cells release paracrine molecules to nearby cells to induce their death so as to contain the spread of the infection. There are no treatments available for the virus because of its extremely high rate of mutation. There are also no vaccines available for that very same reason. The only possible treatments aim to mitigate the effect of the symptoms. Acetaminophen or Tylenol can be taken to reduce fever, pain, and sore throat. One can also take decongestants and antihistamines. The best way to recover from a cold is with rest. The biggest prophylactic measure that can help prevent the contraction of the adenovirus is true to many other ailments. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Good hygiene, washing hands frequently with soap and hot water, can help prevent getting the disease. Public health. The adenovirus is not a major political issue and thus doesn't receive much attention because it's largely innocuous. The mutation rate is also so high that measures taken are reduced in effect. The best way to limit the spread of this disease is through perpetual good hygiene. Hand washing can keep you adenovirus free. Here are references and one public service announcement.